consultants that we pay.
You don't have employees. There's two of you who are partners.
I do. Yeah, and they're indigenous.
You have two employees. That's what you told the committee earlier.
Yes,
okay.
That's correct.
What is it that you do?
Welcome back to Northern Perspective, everyone. I'm Cypher.
And I'm Fox. As most of you are watching Trudeau get destroyed in question period today, we were keeping our eyes on the ArriveScam scandal that continued in committee.
The Standing Committee on Government Operations and Estimates, which had the Bottler whistleblowers testify last week, scored another win by bringing in the two quote-unquote CEOs from Coradix and Dalian Enterprises.
You may recall those two companies as they were the ones located in the same building, in the same office, using the same employees, and even the same fax number, yet they call themselves two separate companies.
Let's take a look.
Standing Committee on Government Operations and Estimates, fondly known as the Mighty OGO. Now, pursuant to Standing Order 1082 and the motion adopted by the committee on Monday, October 17, 2022, the committee is meeting on the study of the ArriveCan application. Colleagues, a reminder not to put earpieces next to the microphone as it causes feedback and potential injury. And in accordance with our routine motion, I'm informing the committee that all witnesses appearing by video conference have completed the required connection tests in advance of the meeting. Now we have as witnesses today Mr. Wood and Mr. Yao. I understand you each have opening statements?
A point of order, Mr. Chair.
Yes, go ahead, Ms. Kusi.
Yes. My understanding, and perhaps the clerk will correct me if I'm wrong, is that whether individuals are sworn in or not, under parliamentary privilege, it is still contempt of Parliament to mislead the committee by giving a false statement or false evidence to refuse, unless related to cabinet confidence, to answer any questions or to fail to produce documents that this committee might require someone to produce. That is my understanding. Could the chair please clarify for, or excuse me, the clerk please clarify for that for the committee, please? Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, that is called a veiled threat. That's what that was.
Very nice.
Well played, Stephanie Kuzi. So that was a bit of political showmanship. And that was basically a shot across the bow of both of those CEOs to let them know that you better not be lying. Because if you are, there's going to be consequences. So you better give us the truth. And if we ask for documents, you better be giving us those documents.
And it's probably to rattle them a little bit as well.
It is. It definitely is. Whether they're sworn in or not, it's the understanding that they're going to be truthful, because otherwise they are denying parliamentary privilege to the MPs in the room. So very interesting opening before this even gets started by the Conservatives, especially Stephanie Kusi. Well played.
Yeah, Ms. Kusi, there's a couple items from the Power of Parliamentary Houses to send for persons, papers, and records, the book. Whether people are sworn in or not under parliamentary privilege, it's still contempt of Parliament to mislead the committee by giving a false statement or false evidence, to refuse to provide questions or documents, regardless of whether it's sworn in or not. And then page 1081 of the House of Commons Practices and Procedures states, refusal to answer questions or failure to reply truthfully may give rise to a charge of contempt of the House, whether the witness has been sworn in or not. Is that satisfactory for your point of order?
It is,
or your question?
It is satisfactory. I'm wondering if it's historic practice within this committee to swear in the witnesses, please.
I believe the last was 2003, so it's not common.
Okay. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks. Sorry, Mr. Yao and Mr. Wood.
So after that, Mr. Yao, Mr. Wood, over to you. The Conservatives are just being so cerebral lately. It is beautiful to watch, I have to say.
We each have opening statements, or are you sharing one statement? I'm sorry.
Why wouldn't you share one statement? You share one company.
Nice one.
We each have opening statements.
Perfect. Why don't we start with you, Mr. Yao, and it's 5 minutes, please. We are short of time today. Of course, we're running late, so I'd appreciate if you just stick to the 5 minutes. Please go ahead, Mr. Yao.
Mr. Chair, merci beaucoup. Merci beaucoup. Merci beaucoup. Je m'appelle David Yo. J'apprécie.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you very much. My name is Mr. Yao, and I appreciate these discussions today.
And honorable members of the committee, I would like to acknowledge that the land that we gather on today is the traditional and ancestral and unceded territory of the Anishinaabe Algonquin Nation and is now home to many other First Nations, Métis, and Inuit peoples. I'm a decorated veteran. During my 36-year career with the Canadian Army, which included deployments to Afghanistan and the Middle East, I was held to the highest levels of integrity, and of course, I continue to conduct myself in this manner today. I would also like to further acknowledge that Chief Robert Franklin, my great-grandfather, and past chief of Alderville First Nation, is a treaty-signing chief. This treaty was signed on November 19th, 1923, almost 100 years ago to the day, and as a direct descendant of a treaty signing chief, I hold my heritage in the utmost integrity as well. I happen to have the treaty here with me today to help guide us through these discussions.
What? What are you on about? I don't understand what he's on about, because this is about ArriveCan, and he's talking about his great-grandfather being a chief. Okay, that's fine. And he's the CEO of Dalian. We know Dalian is the one company that is allegedly 51% owned by Indigenous peoples, which is why it gets preferred treatment on these contracts. We've already discussed that. What are you talking about treaties? Land the plane.
In 2003, I was asked to participate in the creation of the Government of Canada's policy for the procurement strategy for Aboriginal business, or what is known today as the procurement strategy for Indigenous business. Mr. Alan Frost, myself, and many other Indigenous leaders created this policy that guides the Government of Canada today in supporting Indigenous businesses with federal government procurement opportunities. Dalian is a hardware and software cybersecurity company that I founded 23 years ago. In addition to myself, and as much as possible, we prioritize the hiring of Indigenous employees and the deployment of Indigenous consultants to work on projects for the Government of Canada. Dalian and Coradix are in joint venture under the procurement strategy for Indigenous business. We established this joint venture in 2004. In the JV, Dalian provides professional services in cybersecurity and networking, and Coradix provides IT professional services. In every project for the Government of Canada, Dalian follows all procurement and contracting rules and policies. We deliver according to scope of work or task authorizations that we receive, and only invoice for work performed, completed, signed off by technical authorities, or according to the terms and conditions of the contract.
So he mentioned that they try to only have Indigenous people that are working on their stuff. In my research a couple of weeks ago, I only found 3 actual employees, 3 in their corporate structure that's identified on LinkedIn that actually do this type of work. And it's possible they had Indigenous heritage. I can tell you their names didn't really indicate that. Now, that doesn't mean a lot. But 3, you're telling me that of the tens of millions of dollars, hundreds of millions of dollars that you've been paid over the last 12 years, You've given this to 3 employees. You've had 3 employees do that. And failing that, you subcontracted it to other people, and you're saying that the only people that you contract are primarily Indigenous people. You're going to have to prove that, because I don't believe it.
Yeah, and he's making statements in committee where he's expected to be truthful. They can ask him to prove it.
Yep.
Miigwech. And now I will pass off to Mr. Wood.
Point of order,
Monsieur
Chair.
Le Président.
Permit before
Merci beaucoup.
Mr. Wood. Thank you.
Sorry, Mr. Wood, before you start, we have another point of order. If you could just bear with us a second.
Yeah, given the unfortunate late start we had a result of votes, I'm hoping that we might be able to get the witnesses to stay for an extended period of time, given that we started close to 40 minutes late. I'm hoping perhaps if we could get their assurance to stay till like the 6 o'clock hour, something along that line, that would be very much appreciated, Chair, given the late start that we had. Thank you.
I think they have confirmed for an hour from our start time. Gentlemen, are you able to stay longer than that?
That's correct. We've made accommodations to our schedules, and we can stay for the hour that we committed to.
Okay. Are you they passed the hour is the question from one of our colleagues on the committee.
The hour, we're comfortable with the hour.
Okay. We do have them for the 1 hour from the start time.
Okay. Thank you, Chair.
Mr. Wood, please just go ahead with your 5 minutes, please.
Mr. Chair and honorable members of the committee, my name is Colin Wood. I joined Coradix in 2016 and have been president since November of 2021. I'm also a director with Dalian. I've been working in the IT professional services sector for more than 20 years. And Coradix is an IT consulting company that has been operating for close to 30 years since 1995. Dalian is a hardware and software cybersecurity company that has been operating for more than 20 years. Coradix and Dalian are in a joint venture under the Procurement Strategy for Indigenous Business. Coradix and Dalian share a 2-floor commercial office in downtown Ottawa, as well as several corporate functions, including business development, proposal services, account management, and administration. We have more than 40 employees and currently have 475 consultants working on a range of IT projects for the Government of Canada. Over the years, Coradix and Dalian have provided IT products and services to most federal government organizations.
Just to clarify, everybody, when they say they have 40 employees, so that kind of lines up with what I found. I think it's also interesting that this guy's the CEO of Coradix and a director in Dalian.
Yeah,
so that mean he gets paid 2 different paychecks?
Well, when he's stealing it from the taxpayer, sure.
Right? Because according to the earnings that we've shown here, different money gets paid to Coradix and different money gets paid to Dalian.
But this whole thing is just... Sorry, Cypher just blew my mind when he said that this guy's a CEO at one company and a director at the other. Have you ever seen that in your entire career?
Nope. Nope. Never seen it. Never seen it. I've been around. Never seen it. And never mind the fact that he then goes on to say, well, we have like 450 consultants. Okay, time out. That doesn't mean that they're employees.
Usually that means contractors, right?
Yeah, this is probably just a network of 450 people that they've done business with at one point or another. So just want to make sure that all of that is crystal clear to everybody.
We have also provided thousands of IT consultants with a broad range of technical skills, expertise, education, training, and experience to support, implement, and successfully deliver hundreds of projects for the Government of Canada departments and agencies. In every project for the government, Coradix and Dalian follow all procurement and contracting rules and policies. We deliver according to scope, task authorizations we receive, and only invoice for work performed, completed, and signed off by technical authorities according to the terms and conditions of the contract. The outsourcing of IT professional services is an effective approach that allows the government to access leading-edge skills and expertise that it needs to plan and execute specific projects within a defined period of time. These specialized expertise and skills are not available internally. Coradix and Dalian compete for, maintain, and manage a variety of standing offers and supply arrangements with numerous federal government organizations. We have also obtained and maintain a variety of security clearances for our company, employees, and consultants, which allow us to work on highly sensitive and confidential projects. There is, of course, a business cost to all of this. On projects we undertake for the government, we provide task response and administration project planning, contract management, account management, security clearance, and CISD administration and administrative functions, including contracting, invoicing, payments to employees, consultants, and contractors. These consultants that provide services to the government report to and are under the direction, supervision, and control of Government of Canada employees. On ArriveCan, in May of 2020, Coradix and Dalian began receiving task authorization requests to support software development work on mobile applications. And this was under our task-based informatics professional service contract with the CBSA.
That's very important, everybody. That means they didn't compete for ArriveCan. They didn't compete for it.
Can you explain that one further for us?
So if you're competing for a contract, what happens is an organization will complete what's called an RFP. RFP stands for Request for Proposal. So this type of term is used in supply arrangements, it's used in technology, it's used in virtually every industry where you're needing to procure anything, which is most of them. So any of you that work in warehousing, any of you that work in logistics, you know what I'm talking about. And an RFP is essentially the organization writing out all of their requirements as to what they need. And then they send that out sometimes to a website where vendors will check that and then respond to it, or they will pass that out to, selected vendors and then have them respond to that. And then what then happens is all of them respond to the RFP, that's evaluated, and then a vendor is chosen and then awarded the contract. Done. A task authorization is different. A task authorization is something that activates a pre-committed amount of money with an existing contract. So there's an existing contract with Dalian and Coradix, or Coradix, and the government doesn't have to go to compete for a bid because they're just activating something that they've already committed to Coradix and Dalian. So what they've probably done is they have secured a block of development hours or a block of consulting hours or a block of whatever they want to call it with these organizations, and then they can just activate it however they like with whatever project they like. So it's technically following the Government of Canada rules, but as the Bottler folks said, this type of rule is designed to circumvent the competitive process because it automatically gives the CBSA or whoever's in the CBSA that is in charge of procurement, Cameron McDonald at the time, to activate his buddies on whatever project he wishes.
And CBSA is the Canada Border Services Agency.
From May 2020 to May 2023, we provided 20 IT professionals to perform various functions on the ArriveCan project, including software development, testing, project management, technology architecture, and cybersecurity. The billing rates for these IT professionals range from $540 to $1,000 per day, depending on the service they were providing, their level of expertise, and their experience. These rates are consistent with market rates for IT professional services. While this does not in any way relate to ArriveCan, I would like to use my remaining time to provide a few comments relating to Bottler. On November 11th, 2020, we were contacted by CBSA for a task authorization request under our BTID contract. GC Strategies was informed by CBSA that we had received the task request for these services. They then contacted us to advise that they had a team with the experience and expertise CBSA was seeking to work on this project. GC Strategies provided us with the CVs of the Bottler team, which we then submitted to CBSA with our task authorization response. This project with CBSA was deliverable based. There were 6 expected deliverables, each with a budget of $70,000. CBSA received and accepted 2 of the 6 anticipated deliverables provided by Bottler and were paid $112,000 by GC Strategies. Coradix and Dalian were paid $14,000 per deliverable for the tasking, oversight, account planning and management, security clearance and administration services related to the project, as well as accepting the overall risk associated in a deliverables-based task authorization. On December 14, 2021, CBSA advised Coradix, Dalian, GC Strategies, and Bottler that they were terminating the project. This happens when the client decides the project is no longer needed or it's not meeting expectations in terms of quality, timelines, and or budget. That is the extent of our dealings with Bottler. Mr. Chair, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wood. And we'll start with Ms. Kusi for 6 minutes, please.
Thank you, gentlemen, for being here today. From our understanding, the CBSA hired GC Strategies to work on ArriveCan, who then in turn hired both of you. Is this a regular relationship between your firms that GC Strategies would hire Dalian and Coradix, excuse me?
Mr. Chair, we weren't hired by GC Strategies.
Okay. Did you sign a contract with GC Strategies?
Yes, GC Strategies is a subcontractor that we occasionally work with, and we worked with them on the Bottler AI task authorization.
Okay, and would you submit that contract to the committee, please?
Yes, we can.
What was the billing process?
Our billing process is, for this contract in particular, was deliverables based. Once the contractor is completed deliverable, it is signed off by a Government of Canada employee. Once we receive the signed off deliverable, we then invoice CBSA.
You followed that process?
Pardon me?
And you followed that process?
Yes.
For all billing?
Yeah, there were only there were only 2 deliverables submitted against this task authorization until the contract was terminated in late December of 2021.
Okay, so here's something to consider. Bottler's contending that they completed all of the deliverables. Why else would they be irritated that they weren't getting paid? And they also didn't see any contract. There was no contract with them with anyone, right? So Dalian is contending that only 2 deliverables were actually completed. But according to Bottler, they never spoke with Dalian. They never dealt with Dalian. Again, if something was going on like this, even if you were subcontracting, what's supposed to happen is government goes to Dalian and says, we need the scope of work done. Task authorization, get it done. And Dalian says, okay, no problem. And then what they would do is they would bring GC Strategies to the table, to government, and say, we're going to use these guys. You okay with that? Yes, we're okay with that. All right. So they're going to be they're going to be in on this. Okay, fine. And then GC Strategies would go and find Bottler and then bring them in and say, these are the guys that we're going to use. Are you okay with that? Yes. And all of this is supposed to be on one contract. One. Okay? This doesn't get executed in multiple contracts behind the scenes where all of this corruption can happen. It's not how it works. If an organization contracts an agency to go and get talent, then what happens is that agency goes and gets that talent, brings them to the organization. The organization meets with them, interviews them, and says, are you going to be a good fit? Sure, you're going to be a good fit. And then signs a contract with the staffing agency to pay that employee. Or the organization will pay a finder's fee to that staffing agency, and then the organization will invoice that employee directly. There's no other way this happens.
Not if you're doing it on the books and legit.
So who actually completed the work for ArriveCan?
We subcontracted that work to a company called GC. Pardon me?
Go on, please.
Yep, we subcontracted that work to GC Strategies, who is in partnership with Bottler AI.
Okay. Were you hired by the CBSA in order to help them fulfill their obligations under Bill C-65?
We were provided a task authorization by CBSA to provide a pilot project with the technology that was built by a company called Bottler AI. CBSA then informed GC Strategies that we received this task authorization, and that's when they contacted us.
Okay, can you please provide the committee with the contracts you signed with GC Strategies in the production of the ArriveCan app, please?
I'm confused,
You
Mr. Chair.
already agreed to do that. All right, thank you. I'll continue. Can you provide any email communication that contain the words GC Strategies, ArriveCan, or Bottler? Would you table that with this committee, please?
There are many emails that we send to CBSA, and that some of those GC Strategies was included on. The sensitive nature of those emails, I don't think at this time we're in a position to provide those. I would talk to CBSA if you would like.
Okay, that's a no. Thank you.
I don't buy that. I don't buy it at all. You have a government agency that is communicating with Dalian and GC Strategies. The question was, can you provide any emails regarding GC Strategies, Bottler, any of that? And he said, well, there was many communications with CBSA, with GC Strategies, and those are sensitive. Well, hello, who do you think that CBSA reports into and is accountable to? The government. And the government's asking you to provide these emails. Something sketchy here, man.
You provide the contracts you signed with GC Strategies for the program set by the CBSA to fulfill their obligations under Bill C-65, otherwise known as the Bottler Project?
Yes, we can.
Okay, thank you very much. What was your involvement with Bottler?
We were not involved with Bottler. We didn't have a contract with Bottler. We subcontracted the work to GC Strategies.
Okay, what work did Dalian complete in the building of the program to help the CBSA fulfill its obligations under Bill C-65?
If you recall, this guy said that Dalian Coradix got $14,000 per deliverable for whatever Bottler did. Okay? $14,000. The work that these guys did is they said, GC Strategies, go deal with us. That's robbery of the Canadian taxpayer. $14,000 for doing nothing. He says, oh, well, account management and all this and blah, blah, we supplied all these. Now he just turned around a few questions later and said we weren't involved with Bottler. You either were or you weren't. You can't have it both ways. So this guy's already talked himself into a contradiction.
Well, that would go back to 2019 when we responded to an RFP at CBSA. If the chair would allow me to explain how our business works and how we arrived at, we were awarded that contract, it might help explain how we were given this task authorization.
What's the total value of contracts you've received from GC Strategies? Would you say, what's the total value?
Mr. Chair, and to the member, we haven't received contracts from GC Strategies.
What's the total value of contracts you've received from CBSA?
I don't have that. I can provide that to you in writing.
Okay, please
in
do.
a later time. I don't have that in front of me. I was prepared today to speak about ArriveCan and Bottler AI.
Okay, what's the total amount of contracting that you've done with the entire government?
Mr. Chair, I'm just not prepared to talk about that today. We're here to talk about ArriveCan and some expanded questions on Bottler AI.
The government being your biggest client, you're the CEO, and you don't know how much your company has contracted with them for? You're either lying or you're a terrible CEO. Pick one.
Why not both?
What different departments have you done contracting for? Has Dalian and both Dalian and Coradix done contracting for?
Yeah, we have responded to and been awarded several contracts in many government of Canada departments and agencies.
Can you provide a list of them, please?
Yes, we can.
Okay, so you'll provide a list of those to the committee. That's great. How much of your
could you, Mr. Chair, if we could have a time period for that, please?
We will. I'll follow up after this.
Okay.
Thank you.
Did you see the resumes of that were submitted to CVSA prior to their submission for Mr. Amir and Ms. Ratika?
Yeah. So I can walk you through that process. We did not produce or edit any of the CVs that were provided to that submission. Those CVs were provided to us by GC Strategies on behalf of Bottler. I understand the question, and we were disappointed that we were put in the position of passing along CVs that did contain incorrect information.
Notice that he didn't answer the question. Usually what happens is when someone asks you basically a yes or no question and you're like, we kind of received them. We didn't edit them. We didn't do anything. Well, that wasn't the question.
Spontaneous utterance is what that is.
Yeah.
But further to that, he just threw GC Strategies under the bus.
Yeah, this is going to start a mudslinging fight because now they're saying, hey, if there was any identity theft, if there was any resume manipulation, wasn't us. So therefore, it must have been GC Strategies. So I wonder how GC Strategies is going to take to that. They're going to be called in to testify again, too. Just you wait.
It is not uncommon for us to work with other companies as subcontractors, including big multinational companies. And when those firms provide us with CVs for their individuals or teams, we take those CVs to be valid as provided. As our contract states,
I'm sorry to interrupt, Mr. Wood, I'm sorry to interrupt. That is our time. Just to get back to you, our clerk will provide to you just a summary of the requests for documents. In this committee, we've passed a motion. We do require those documents within 3 weeks of today, but we will follow up with you. Mr. Jouari, you're splitting time with Mr. Baines. Go ahead.
Yes, I am, and thank you very much, and thank you for witnesses coming to the committee. Right off the bat, I just want to get some clarification. Mr. Wood, did Bottler at any time work through GC Strategies on ArriveCan?
The Bottler AI project was not related in any way to ArriveCan.
None of neither Amir nor Nitika's time was spent on any way ArriveCan. Okay, so that's aside. So what was the involvement that your company had, and also Mr. Yi, as far as Dalian regarding ArriveCan?
Oh, okay. I can speak to that, Mr. Chair. Thank you, and to the member. Our involvement on ArriveCan began in 2000, where we were awarded a contract in August of 2019. And on this contract, to provide services to the BTID group at CBSA, we began receiving in May of 2020 task authorizations related to the ArriveCan project. All the way through into May 2023 until the last consultant finished their assignment. We, through the course of providing we provided 20 consultants who, and I'll give you the exact details on that. 3 of the 20 consultants worked on deliverables-based contracts where the client must accept and sign off completion of the project milestones before accepting invoices and making payments. The value of these contracts was $1.2 million. And the work was done over 3 years, an average of $133,000 a year per consultant per year. The remaining 17 consultants worked approximately 5,100 days over a 3-year period. The cost of this was $3.7 million, on average of $725 per day per consultant. The 5,100 days over the 3 years works out to an average of 100 days per year per consultant, and there are 230 business days per year. Our total amount invoiced to CBSA was approximately $4.5 million.
So the amount of development and resources that you put roughly come around 4.5. This is the testimony that we had heard before on ArriveCan. So thank you very much for that. Who do you specifically work with when you are trying to form these contracts with CBSA? Do you go through GC Strategy and GC Strategy comes in, or you have a direct relationship with someone in CBSA?
Yeah, so like I indicated, we competed for and won a contract at CBSA in 2019, and were subsequently awarded the contract through that competitive process in August of 2019. The work we perform for CBSA is all based on the receipt of task authorizations provided by various clients at CBSA. GC Strategies is not involved in this at all. They are a subcontractor that we have occasionally done work with.
So just so everybody understands, he keeps using this acronym BTID. So what that typically stands for is Business Transformation and Innovation Division. So what he's probably referring to is, again, there was a RFP put out for a block of hours related to business transformation, meaning, converting legacy systems into modern technology, or, new types of initiatives, new types of technologies, that sort of thing. It's kind of bizarre, actually, that there's just a general block for this, and it was quote unquote awarded to Dalian / Coradix. That's the pretty sketchy part in this, because typically you compete on a contract by contract basis. You don't just get to use task authorizations for 50 different projects and award them all to the same vendor. That's not how this is supposed to work.
I'll pass the rest of the time to my colleague.
Vinola, please, for 6.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Monsieur.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Wood, I'm trying to understand how everything happened. So, just to confirm, you received a contract from the Border Service Agency, and then you subcontracted to GC Strategies, and then GC Strategies subcontracted to individuals. How was security ensured during the creation of ArriveCan? Because there was sensitive data there with 3 levels of subcontractors.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, again, ArriveCan is in no way related to the Bottler AI project.
J'ai même pas mentionné Butler, je parlais d'Arrive.
I didn't mention Bottler, I mentioned ArriveCan.
Je vous demande de clarifier.
Okay.
Vous avez reçu un...
I'm asking for clarification. You received a contract from CBSA, and then you subcontracted to GC Strategies, and GC Strategies also went looking for other subcontractors. We don't know who. And so my question is, all of these different subcontractors, how can security be ensured if there are all these different levels of subcontractors involved?
I'll attempt. I believe there's a couple of questions in there, Mr. Chair, and to the member. We have no contracts, and we do not do any work with GC Strategies on ArriveCan. As for the security process, I can walk you through how that works, and particularly at CBSA and for all of the contractors we provided for the ArriveCan project. Once we receive a task authorization, every consultant that we propose and we put forward in response to a task authorization goes through 2 processes. They either have to have an existing secret clearance, or we issue or we apply for their security clearance through CISD and PSPC. In addition to that, CBSA conducts their own internal security screening. So any contractor, any consultant that works on a project at CBSA, and for that matter, in any federal government department on any contract, must be security cleared.
Merci.
Thank you. What is your contractual relationship with Miss Rikita Dutt?
We have no contractual relationship with Ritika Dutt whatsoever.
Et vous n'avez jamais rien facturé.
And you never billed anybody with the name Rikita Dutt and the work done with her, the name of her business. It never happened, not even in 2021?
The task authorization request that we received from CBSI from CBSA for Bottler AI for the Bottler AI pilot was subcontracted through GC Strategies, who is in partnership with Bottler AI. As part of our submission in response to that task authorization, Ritika Dutt's profile was submitted by them through us to CBSA.
Le contrat numéro 4.
Contract 47419-206-529-001-EL refers to what precisely?
That is the task authorization request from CBSA for firm price deliverables for the Bottler AI project.
This is crazy. So they have a contract that the committee knows. They see it. They have it. That's how this lady was able to read this out. And it refers to Bottler AI. Then this guy's turning around saying, well, there's no relationship between us and Bottler. Like, this is double talking, and he's going to get into trouble.
Et étiez-vous impliqué dans le projet Bottler?
And were you involved in the Bottler AI project?
You're muted again, Mr. Wood.
Sorry for that, Mr. Chair. Regarding this task authorization and the work with Bottler AI, we were the prime contract holder. The resources, including Ritika Dutt, were provided to us by GC Strategies, who is in partnership with Bottler AI.
Alors, si c'est GC Strategies qui fournit les...
So if GC Strategies provides the resources, how do you explain the fact that there's a bill with the daily and letterhead billed to CBSA? There's at least one bill.
I think it's important to understand, and I think this is a question for probably GC Strategies and their contractual relationship with each other or with Bottler AI. Our contract to provide these deliverables was through GC Strategies. Our invoice, we invoiced the Crown, we invoiced CBSA and paid GC Strategies, who paid Bottler AI.
Okay, so what this lady is doing is she's closing the gaps on this guy and is basically saying, wait a minute, so you are billing the government. You're saying you had nothing to do with Bottler. You're saying that GC Strategies was managing that relationship. So why is the government paying you anything? You didn't do anything.
Thank you, Mr. Wood, and thank you, Ms. Vinola. Mr. Johns, please, for 6.
So maybe you can explain again, what is your relationship with Christian Firth of GC Strategies? Mr. Wood, can you maybe elaborate how often you do business with Mr. Firth and GC Strategies?
Yeah, GC Strategies is a subcontractor that we have done work with from time to time.
For how long?
The first contract, the first arrangement we were in was back, I believe, in 2020.
Do you have a personal relationship with Mr. Frith?
No.
Okay. Mr. Frith boasted that, a committee, this is Mr. Morv's testimony last Thursday, and he cited that Mr. Frith boasted to them that he had dirt on various senior federal public servants who are responsible for awarding government contracts. Did Mr. Frith ever share anything like that with you, or about his connections in the public service?
I don't know anything about that.
Okay. Can you tell me about? Let me get this straight. You submitted information about Ms. Dutt and Mr. Morv to around their task authorization, and you're saying that you're not responsible because you subbed it out to Mr. Frith. Mr. Frith possibly gave you the wrong information about them, inflating their expertise, and you're saying that you're not responsible even though it's your contract?
Okay, even though he's butchering Christian Firth's name, this is a really good question. Because if you recall, this guy was boasting at the beginning that, well, we took on all the risk.
Coradix and Dalian were paid $14,000 per deliverable, as well as accepting the overall risk associated in a deliverables-based task authorization.
He said that. We took on all the risk on this contract. Right. You are accountable. You're accountable to the government. And the thing about accountability is if you then pass on those resumes, then you're a party to this. You're accountable. You're the one who chose to subcontract this out to GC Strategies. You're accountable. So, very good question. The guy's saying, well, how are you saying you're not accountable when you are?
No, that's not what I said. We are accepting responsibility. That's our mistake. We have a quality management system in place. We take these matters very seriously. In a case where we're working with a third party, is what this was. We don't engage their subcontractors. We don't engage their consultants. We have non-solicitation agreements. We would never reach out to GC Strategies contractors, and we can only accept those CVs to be valid.
What? This has nothing to do with solicitation. Meaning trying to poach contractors that your other subcontracting agency is using. This is about resources working on a contract that you're accountable for. That doesn't fly.
Okay, so why not? Like, I guess when you see a situation like this, next time will you be doing your due diligence, given...
Yeah, Mr. Chair, and to the member, we are an ISO 9001-2015 certified company, which means our processes are certified. We have a very strict quality management system, and we are in the process right now of examining our processes.
I bet you are.
And we will be making changes.
Okay. So here's the thing. Does Mr. Frith come to you and say, "Hey, I've got a solution"? Oh, what's the problem? Or is it more like you go to Mr. Frith and say, "I need help with something"?
Did the NDP just say, "I bet you are"?
He sure did. He sure did. That was kind of snippy.
Wow.
It's nice to hear the NDP have some gonads for a change, in the words of our illustrious Daryl Stinson.
Do you have the fortitude or the gonads to stand up and come across here and say that to me?
This NDP guy's coming after him. I like it.
Yeah. Finally, they're siding with the Conservatives and with the taxpayers instead of against them.
Yeah. Because he's sniffing out exactly what's going on. So what, you're saying Christian Firth, does he come to you and say, hey, I have a solution, and you say, what's the problem? Or are you actually going to him? So he's smelling something that's deeper than what the guy's saying.
Or does he come to you and try to engage you?
Yeah, well, if I can speak to, I can answer the question in relation to the Bottler AI task authorization. Is that what you're asking me?
Just overall in your relationship with GC Strategies.
Well, typically, I mean, we don't have a relationship. We have done business from time to time, but typically clients came to us, and in this instance, for the Bottler AI project, they were named in the task authorization request, and CBSA did inform GC Strategies.
So when you hire a subcontractor and they have a dispute with the sub that's subbing from the subcontractor like Bottler and GC Strategies, and there is work been done, but you've been paid for, that one of your subs has been done, do you leave that with the first sub responsibility to pay them, or because you've been paid for the work that they've been done, like in Bottler's case, where they claim that they've done $350,000 worth of work, do you not take responsibility for that? Or do you communicate with your initial sub and say the work's been done, why haven't you paid the vendor?
Yeah. Well, CBSA, so there's a few things there, Mr. Chair, and to the member. CBSA received only 2 deliverables from Bottler AI before they terminated their contract. And in these types of relationships, we only communicate with the company that we hold a contractual arrangement with. And it's also a fact.
So they can basically stiff or bankrupt a company that's doing work for Canadian taxpayers. Basically, that sub could bankrupt somebody that's doing honest, good work for Canadians. That's what I'm getting at. Can you tell me who Patrick Vanabima is and what his relationship with you is?
Wow.
That's yeah.
That was bold. That was good.
And it's accurate too. And the important thing that was said here, it was kind of skipped over the way that Woods said this. So the NDP questioner says, does GC Strategies come to you and say, we have a solution, here, give us a problem? Or do you typically go to them? And they said, well, we typically engage with a client, and then, we would then go to GC Strategies. But then he went on to say something very important. He said, in this case, GC Strategies was named in the task authorization. So what that means is that McDonald was speaking to Christian Firth at GC Strategies as a sidebar. And this lines up exactly with the Bottler people were saying. And this lines up exactly with what happened in the Globe and Mail. So Cameron McDonald spoke to Christian Firth at GC Strategies. GC Strategies found the Bottler people. Then GC Strategies went back to Cameron and CBSA and says, hey, we got these guys. And then rather than spin up a contract and try and sort that out via competitive process, Cameron doesn't want to do that. So Cameron uses the corrupt government process to then just issue a task authorization, automatically increasing the value of the contract because it has to go to Dalian, because he wants to avoid a competitive process. So he goes to Dalian, uses that pot that's already there, and then that comes back down to GC Strategies, and then that goes back down to Bottler. So it's automatically inflating the contract cost per deliverable by $14,000. Multiply that by 6, and what do you get? You get $84,000, which has been stolen from the Canadian taxpayer, assuming that's all paid out. Just because of how that worked out. It's robbery.
Bottler was paid for both of those deliverables, by the way. Patrick Vanabima was also included on the task authorization for the Bottler AI project.
On the Bottler, any money on the Bottler contract?
Sorry, I missed part of the question.
Did you make a commission on the Bottler contract at all, and if so, how much was it?
Yep, the total value of the Bottler AI each deliverable was worth $70,000. They submitted 2 deliverables, and Coradix and Dalian made $14,000 on each deliverable.
In terms of the Indigenous set-asides, I've got lots of questions related to this. I really value the program because Indigenous involvement and leadership in Canadian procurement is an important aspect of reconciliation. How many joint ventures have Dalian and Coradix gone into?
We have been in a joint venture since 2004. And from time to time, when we decide to respond to RFPs, we make a decision together on whether to engage in RFP as a joint venture or independently.
Boom. That's exactly what I said that they would do. So he's admitting right there that, okay, so Do we compete separately to try and this is stupid.
Well, it's exactly as Ritika Dutt said the other day, that they operate as one company when they need to, or they operate as two companies when they need to.
Right. So, like, do we both respond to an RFP that increases the chances that one of us, ergo both of us, get it? Like, this is just ridiculous. I don't know how this is legal.
So how many joint ventures have Dalian and Coradix gone into that were not connected to the Indigenous set-aside program?
Mr. Chair and to the member, I don't have that number for you. I apologize.
Could you produce that number within 3 weeks to this committee? Both how many joint ventures have Dalian and Coradix gone into, and how many joint ventures have Dalian and Coradix gone into that were not connected to the Indigenous set-aside program?
Sure.
Thank you.
Great, thank you. Mr. Barrett, please, for 5.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. To Mr. Yeo, what's the structure of your business as it relates to your counterpart on the other side of the desk there? How many employees do you have?
Yeah, Mr. Chair and Mr. Member, thank you very much for the question. So I started the business in 2001.
Not looking for what year it was founded. Looking for the structure, the org chart. If you could provide that in verbal terms in under 30 seconds.
Absolutely. So in 2001, I actually went to Coradix when I first won my first contract out of the PSAB, and we formed a business together, and they now, we basically hold, in a corporate structure, we have 2 full-time employees with Dalian, okay? But we have a shared services model that helps both companies basically, thrive as to what we're doing today.
Thank you. In a minute, we learned you have 2 employees. Dalian and Coradix were paid a combined $4.3 million. Is that correct for the ArriveCan program?
Approximately, yes.
And what value did Canadians receive for that $4.3 million?
Yeah. So we received approximately 20 task authorizations to deliver IT professional services in software development, testing, project management, and technology architecture and cybersecurity.
Sir, did your employees do that, or did you subcontract that work out?
We work with IT consultants, and they're subcontractors.
Well, I love the way Barrett asked that question. It was what value, not like what was done. It was like what did you guys actually do?
Yeah, what did you do?
Did you just pass it along? Like, what was the function? Like, why were you even there?
Right, and this is the thing, and this is exactly what GC Strategies did. They don't do any work. They assemble the team. A team that they share. Well, like, they just go out and get random IT guys.
No, but they said that they have 2 full-time employees and then some sort of fancy business model, quote unquote fancy business model, where they share the employees between the 2 companies.
Yeah, they call it shared services, which, basically it's exactly what we reported on a couple weeks ago. Is that these are essentially the same company with 2 different CEOs, but the same employees. It's ridiculous that they call themselves separate entities. It's absolutely asinine.
And you know what? I'm sitting here watching all this and listening to Cypher break it up, and I'm wondering, on the back end, do you think these guys are committing tax fraud too?
Oh, wouldn't surprise me. Wouldn't surprise me at all. Wouldn't surprise me if they were both claiming the same assets on their businesses, therefore getting a double tax break. Wouldn't surprise me at all.
Okay, do you have ongoing business with GC Strategies?
No, they are a subcontractor that we have worked with occasionally.
Was Bottler a subcontractor of yours?
No.
Are all of your subcontractors, do they all have appropriate security clearance?
Absolutely.
Okay, so GC Strategies had the appropriate security clearance always to see the material that they worked on?
I'm not sure I understand your question.
Uh-oh.
He's trying to trap you is the question.
No. What he's asking is, in order for GC Strategies to work on this contract, okay? They should have had security clearance. Christian Firth and his partner should have had security clearance if they were seeing these deliverables that were coming down through the chain. And if they were seeing the documents and the work that was coming back up through the chain. What should have happened, according to this model that Dalian and Coradix are saying, is that the two guys at GC Strategies should have had security clearances done. Uh-oh.
Did GC Strategies always have the appropriate security clearance for the projects that they were working on?
Contractors that appear on our contracts must have security duplicated by the company holding the contract. As such, anybody being put forward on a task authorization to any government department, including CBSA, has to have a duplication of their security clearance by that firm.
Is that
Therefore,
true?
we held the security clearance for those three contractors on that TA.
So did everyone at Bottler have the appropriate security clearance for the work that they did?
That's what that's what I'm just communicating to you. The three people that were the three consultants that were on that TA all had security clearance.
Okay. Well, the folks at Bottler said that they did not have the appropriate security clearance for the work that they were contracted to do.
Mr. Chair, and to the member, we processed their clearances ourselves and granted their security clearance through our security group by CISD. Okay. In addition, they were approved by CBSA's internal screening.
So you also applied the same vetting to their CVs that included their work history. That's correct?
Those CVs were provided by GC Strategies, and unfortunately, some of the information on those CVs was incorrect.
Isn't that part of the value add that you're telling us that Canadians receive for the $4.3 million? Isn't that what we paid you for?
Oh, I wish I could high five that man right now.
Wow.
Amazing. Good job, Mr. Barrett.
Slap him across his smug face. Wow.
Amazing.
That was awesome, Barrett. Well done. Well done. And you know what? Everyone watching this video they're clapping, they're cheering because, it's about time, people, push back against these guys and you really put it to them bluntly. Like, we're paying you lots of money. Aren't you supposed to be doing this?
But it's worse than that. It's Canadians are paying you lots of money.
Right. That's what I mean. We as in Canadians, 100%.
I think the value add was what CBSA was trying to accomplish with bringing Bottler AI in to help them build an AI technology pilot.
Okay, so if Bottler built it and CBSA used it, and your job was to make sure that everyone was qualified for the work, delivered the work, and was security cleared to do the work, did you make sure all those things were done?
Oh, yes. Wow, Barrett's on fire.
Barrett is not a lawyer, but he could have been. He has an attention to detail that is just really, really solid. Because again, he listened to everything this guy said. And remember all of these things that this guy said, oh, well, we handle the security clearance, we do this administration. He's trying to talk up, basically justify why they deserve this money. Well, here's the problem. If you're talking all that up, you obviously didn't do it because you ended up in the situation that you were. Love it.
The consultants that we provide through our task authorizations are under the direct supervision and control of Government of Canada employees. We do not get involved in scoping the work and providing any of the deliverables in the task authorization or the list of responsibilities for these consultants.
With all due respect, we know that the information that with respect to the CVs for Bottler was fraudulent, that fraud occurred, and on your letterhead, you passed it on to the government. And you were serving as this middleman, a very expensive $4.3 million clearinghouse for this work. So you cashed your check, and in exchange, Canadians didn't get the value that they should have. That billing that was done was based on fraudulent information. And so who is responsible for that? How is it that you're able to continue to do business with the Government of Canada when, in fact, we know that the billings, that this work was predicated on fraud. So it's incredibly concerning. It would be very helpful for this committee to have a list of all of the subcontractors that you do business with, because this is a very gray area. We don't know who those people are. Would you be willing to provide a list of all of your subcontractors for Government of Canada contracts to this committee?
Butler AI was not part of ArriveCan or.
Sir, my question is,
$4.3 million.
Sir, will you provide the list of your subcontractors to the committee?
For what purpose, Chair?
Oh my gosh. Do you see he's looking over at the other guy?
Yes.
I didn't realize until now that they're in the same room.
Oh,
and
yeah.
He's looking over at the other guy. He can't answer a simple yes or no question without looking at the other guy for permission.
And sometimes they're going off mute to get coaching on answers, if you notice. He was caught on mute one time before, which is fine, but they're getting coaching on all this stuff, I guarantee you. Somebody else is in that room other than them. I guarantee you. It's not just the CEOs. They have a communications advisor in there with them. And he doesn't know how to answer this question. Whoa, why would you need that? Excuse me? We have a right to know who you're potentially subcontracting that to. And they may say, no, you don't. Yes, they absolutely do. They have a right to know who is involved with every single contract with the Government of Canada, because that is Canadian taxpayer money going down that whole line, and it is a reflection on the Government of Canada who is working on their systems.
Well, and also it's a security issue.
It's a big-time security issue, because these guys have demonstrated that they pass along fraudulent information. That's assuming they didn't inflate it. They're the ones that didn't alter it. That's assuming that. So it's damned if they did, damned if they didn't, because they're accountable.
And you can see the look on Wood's face. I think he knows that like the sharks are circling in the water.
Oh yeah, he's not having a good time right now.
It's a request from one of our members, and it's a simple yes or no, Mr. Wood. I apologize, but I can't add context to it.
Mr. Chair, on what contract? On what project?
Could you be more specific, Mr. Barrett, then we have to move on?
Well, I think that it would be important for the Standing Committee of Government Operations for the House of Commons to know everyone that you're using as a subcontractor, because there was fraud on this contract. Canadians should know who your subs are, because this is essential for integrity. That's our role here is to provide
Mr.
that
Barrett,
to Canadians.
please.
That's exactly what I just said. Bingo. There's fraud on this one, so therefore we need to know who else. And again, so the problem is Wood got himself into this mess because he said, well, it wasn't us. It wasn't us. It was our subcontractor. Go talk to them. No. You're accountable. You have the government contract. You can't just say, we have the contract, but we gave it to somebody else, so therefore we're not accountable.
Then why are you getting paid? Is the other?
That's the problem, right? That's the problem.
Like this guy's just backed himself into a corner.
Because he said that and made that initial stipulation, he is screwed now. He has basically boxed himself into a corner where this question was unavoidable to be asked. You must give us all of the subcontractors that you do business with now, because then the government needs to vet them all. And this guy probably does not want that to happen, I guarantee you.
So we're looking for the list of your subcontractors so that we can find out if all of your representations to the government are true.
Mr. Chair, and to the member, we have 15,000 consultants in our database right now, and 475 of them are doing work in the federal government right now.
I think.
Are you sure they're all who they say they are?
Oh!
Why is this guy not just saying yes or no? That's the question.
Right? Like,
he's avoiding it.
He's absolutely avoiding it. The hard part would be give us a subset of your contractors. It's easy when you say give them all. It's like, okay, so then give us your database then.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's not like they're saying, oh, go into the database. And, it's not like they're saying go into the database and, pick out the ones that have a company value of 10 million or more. Like, no, just give everybody. Give them all. Print it off. Send it to us. Done.
And plus, the subcontractors could be a company like GC Strategies, or it could be an individual. But it doesn't matter. You want to do business with the government, you want to do business with the big boys, then you have to provide this information. It's called an audit, folks.
On Mr. Barrett. Sorry.
Maybe a point of order.
No,
Chair,
briefly, Mr. Janice, then we're going to move on, please.
Is there agreement that the committee orders the production of that information?
No, I don't see an agreement.
Liberals saying no. Okay.
We're going to move on. Mr. Kuzmirchuk.
So the Liberals just blocked it.
Why?
Liberals just blocked a reasonable question, very reasonable request to get a list of the subcontractors used by Dalian and Coradix to ensure that the government knows who is doing the work for them and that they are who they say they are. Based on the precedent that we've just learned that 2 of the resumes were fraudulently altered. And the Liberals just blocked it.
I wonder how deep this rabbit hole goes.
Ms. Vinola for 2.5, please.
Merci beaucoup, Monsieur le Président. Monsieur Wood, votre...
Thank you, Chair. Mr. Wood, what is this address in Toronto for Coradix?
Mr. Yo is more appropriate to answer.
J'ai pas demandé Dalian, j'ai demandé Coradix.
Yes.
I meant Coradix.
But we are in the process of trying to expand. We've done very well in the area of the NCR and, through what we call Coradix Technologies. Sorry?
J'ai demandé.
I asked about this mailing address for Coradix that is located in Toronto. I don't want to know about any plans to expand. I'm asking about this address in Toronto. So it says on your website, 609 Brewer Street West in Toronto. Apparently, your neighbors are a barbershop, Tibetan Papers Handicrafts, and on the second floor there's something else. There's no Coradix there.
We sometimes partner with a company called Core GTA.
OK. Donc, vous avez beaucoup de partenaires. Vous avez beaucoup de partenaires, mais pas de lieu à vous.
So you have lots of partnerships, but no office there. Having said that, based on the answers we've heard today, here's my question. What was the point of GC Strategies, aside from charging more or acting as an intermediary?
Okay. I just want to show everybody. So I'll take this one. I'll take this one on the chin. I didn't bother looking up the address, like where it actually was in Toronto.
We did see that there was a Toronto address, but...
We did. We didn't find it too relevant. But evidently somebody did. This is what it looks like. Tibetan Paper Handicraft. Donut Boutique. Barber Shop. There's nothing here. This is the mailing address, though.
Do you think it's upstairs? Or is that residential?
It could be. But that's pretty sketchy for a company that that has received hundreds of millions of dollars over the last 12 years. What is going on?
What was their purpose? And what did they bring to the table? And what did you bring to the table? If it seems that everyone aside from you and GC Strategies was doing the work.
Yeah. So probably a question that's more appropriate for GC Strategies. However, I can tell you and that GC Strategies was working with Bottler for over a year, marketing to public safety, to departments in the public safety domain. So that's the relationship between those two companies. As far as our involvement, this contract was competed for and won at a significant cost in 2019. We held the contract. There are no stipulations in our contracts with the Government of Canada that prevent us from doing this. Partnerships are encouraged by PSPC.
Wait, so your response to the question, what did you do? What did GC Strategies do? Sounds like you didn't do anything and everyone else does all the work. Your response to that is, well, there's no stipulations that say we can't do this. And PSPC encourages partnerships. That's your response. Dude, you're sinking fast.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Woods. Mr. Johns for 2.5, please.
So, Mr. Wood, how many staff do you have at Coradix?
Approximately 40.
40. And what office do they work in?
We're on Somerset. We have 2 floors that accommodates about 70 employees.
Okay, but the mailing address is in Toronto?
No, that is not. Our mailing address is in Ottawa.
Okay, okay. In terms of the staff that you have, do you have many former Government of Canada employees?
No.
No, okay. It's a highly competitive industry. Is there a lot of vendors like GC Strategies that you're dealing with that are coming to you?
Yeah, from time to time, clients will ask us to consider working with other companies to deliver against a project, and it's something that occurs in our industry. But it's not, it's clients become aware of these arrangements.
He's looking at something.
Yeah, I had stated this off camera while Cypher and I were watching earlier. I said he's looking up and to his left.
He keeps looking at something. I imagine there's a screen up there providing him information.
It could also be the video screen. I mean, to be fair, we don't know where that is. We know where his camera is because that's where he looks when he speaks.
That's true. That's true.
It does feel fishy. We don't know for sure, but our guts are telling us something's wrong.
Yeah, yeah. And I'm sorry, but for you to say, our clients often ask us to work with other partners. You mean your clients are often asking you to artificially inflate the value of contracts? What is wrong with you?
Do you find them pretty unique then, GC Strategies, and what they do?
I'm not entirely familiar with GC Strategy. Yeah.
And I'm going to go back to Mr. Yeo. Thank you again for your service, sir, and I do as well want to add to that. So I hope it doesn't come across wrong, but I want to talk about the allegations Bottler made around the set-aside program for Indigenous businesses. And as I stated, I highly support it. In terms of the work you listed for Ms. Dudd and Ms. Morv as consultants, has PSPC audited or required evidence from you as per the requirements of the Indigenous set-aside program? And second, would you be willing to provide that evidence to this committee? Because right now, they stated that they were hired on a contract through the Indigenous set-aside program, and they're not Indigenous. Can you speak to that?
Certainly, I appreciate that, Chair, and the honourable member. The aspect of us creating the Indigenous track on the contracting side of things allows us to hire pretty much whoever we want as far as consultants are concerned, but the Indigenous side of it and the PSAB, the PSIB side of it is an auditable and it is audited on every JV that we do. So if we do a JV with Coradix and we win a contract or a task authorization, it is audited by ISC.
Are you concerned about how this audit's going to play out?
No, not at all, because it's, I believe, Colin can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that we already went through an audit process.
Because the work they did was supposed to benefit Indigenous businesses and people. And it has.
Mr. Chair.
And that is our time. If you have a very quick response, Mr. Wood.
Yeah, the PSIB program is designed to help Indigenous entrepreneurs. There are 50 other companies doing similar work under TBIPs. It's not, the program is designed to help Indigenous people build up and scale and grow their businesses. It's not meant to have Indigenous, its purpose isn't to bring on Indigenous IT subcontractors. Yeah. I think there's some confusion there.
Oh, that's pretty bold to say that. So This guy is now lecturing the government on their own policy.
An NDP guy in the government on their own policy, no less.
Right. So he's basically saying, listen, Dalian is technically a indigenous business. So, that's the entrepreneur that's benefit. We can subcontract to non-indigenous people all day.
I don't think that's going to go over well.
Oh, I don't think that's going to go over well at all.
Thank you, Chair. Mr. Yao, you represent a two-person company that receives contracts and then subcontracts. And you've received millions of dollars from taxpayers for the process of receiving contracts and then subcontracting. So what would you say you do here?
Oh, man, I love Genuous.
Wow. So I actually, saw him post a video with this title in there. I didn't know he actually used the intonation and the timing and articulation of the movie Office Space.
What would you say you do here?
To give everybody a quick refresher as to what that is, ironically, in the movie Office Space, it's a set of consultants that are actually auditing a company and finding all of the waste. And they get rid of all of the people that don't do anything. So this is actually an incredible piece of irony that he's referencing Office Space. Because right now, it's the government that's actually going to the consultants and saying, you don't do anything. So the irony here is just amazing.
I have people skills. What the hell is wrong with you people?
Chair and honorable member, you speak about what do I do, but I have to go back to the beginning. The amount of effort
I think you do. I'm not looking for prevarication or distraction. What is it that you do for the government of Canada in exchange for millions of dollars?
I don't know if it's exchanged for millions of dollars because there's so much overhead to running a bricks and mortars business here in Ottawa, expenses relating to, Indigenous employees that I have, Indigenous consultants that we pay.
You don't have employees. There's two of you who are partners.
I do. Yeah, and they're Indigenous.
You have two employees. That's what you told the committee earlier.
Yes, that's correct.
What is it that you do?
What is it that I do? I manage.
What does your company do?
Well, it's a kind of so you're asking two things there, right? The aspect of what I do is an executive on the board of directors for Dalian and looking at governance and the way that the company is run on a daily basis. And I've earned that by building the business over 23 years. So
sir, you're a company with two people. Right. So I appreciate that, you have to pay office expenses and you have to manage your partner's activities, I suppose. But what do you do? What does your company do? What value does it produce? What is it that you do?
Our value add really is in the area of project management and contracts management as it relates to federal government contracting.
What the hell is this guy doing? You can tell who is the real CEO of this company. And it's not Mr. Yo. You can tell. Because the other guy, Colin Wood, has interrupted him a couple of times because he's answering terribly. The problem with this question is Colin Wood is not the CEO of Dalian Enterprises. So even if he tried to interrupt, I'm pretty sure Mr. Genuous wouldn't let him answer. But this guy's like, oh, well, I have Indigenous employees have to play. You have two people. You said you had two people. Board of directors. You have two people.
I like how Genuous is not letting him get away with it, and he's almost being flippant in the way he's asking the question. It's excellent. He's doing such a good job.
Well, he should be flippant because, hello, this is a serious matter. This is hundreds of millions of dollars over a decade that Canadian taxpayers have paid these guys. What do you do aside from steal money from Canadians? What do you do? Answer the question.
Okay, so the federal government gives you a contract. You give the contract to somebody else. And you're telling me that the value you add, you subcontract to someone else. And you're telling me that the value you add is in the process of project management. So what does that mean? What do you do? Because we've been told earlier that the subcontractor deals directly with the federal government in terms of many of the details of it. So what do you do?
On a daily basis, that's true. The subcontractor does deal with the task authorization or the technical authority on a daily basis. But in behind all of that is all of the plurality of, whether it's security clearances and billing and ensuring that the actual contract, we're the prime on the contract. So we also ultimately are responsible for the overarching contract management of everything that goes on.
Well, I understand that you're the prime on the contract, which means that you collect the money. But if the federal government is dealing directly with the subcontractors, and if there have been various problems along the way that have been identified in terms of the results anyways, I'll ask it again. What do these words you're saying actually mean? What is it that you do here?
Well, I will pass this off to Colin.
I'm actually interested in what you do first, Mr. Yao.
I have answered that, and I am an executive on the board of directors for Dalian, and I maintain all of the governance as it relates to the PSAB and make sure that the company is absolutely in line, in step with everything that relates to procurement and government contracting within the federal government.
Oh my God, this guy's a puppet CEO. He's a puppet CEO. He's only there because he's Indigenous. 100%. This is what we theorized in the previous videos. And this has been, as far as I'm concerned, laid bare for us here.
So Woods is the puppet master, and that guy's just sitting there with the fancy title, taking Canadian taxpayer money, and doesn't even know what he does.
He's for all intents and purposes, the Queen/King of England. Your job is to sit there and be Indigenous. Unfortunately, that's his role. And the terrible thing is it's companies like this, and it's people like this that, as far as I'm concerned, are stealing money from the Indigenous people that are busting their asses trying to actually build up a proper business with integrity. That's the biggest problem in all of this. And that whole committee, including the Liberals, should be absolutely outraged at what they're hearing. And this CEO being nailed to the wall can't answer his questions. So I'm going to have to defer to Mr. Wood because I'm a fake CEO. Give me a break.
But you don't actually make anything or produce anything, right? So you're making sure all of these things, but fundamentally
we're providing a service. We're providing.
But what is that service? Like if Stephanie gives me $100 to paint her fence, and then I hire Larry for $50 to paint the fence, what have I done? I've just received money and then hired someone else to do the same thing. And you can call that subcontracting. You can call that project management if you want. But I haven't done anything, right? Like, you don't actually do anything for the money you receive, right?
Wow.
Oh, man.
You know what? Genius can subcontract Larry Brock to come paint my fence any day of the week. Just saying.
I don't even know what that means.
Just saying. But holy, you know what? Good. Go after them. Go after these corrupt people.
And you know what I want to point out right here? The only ones really driving hard at these guys are the Conservatives.
I'll give a little bit of credit to the NDP. They've kind of stepped up to the plate, and the Bloc.
But like, if you said who's going after them the most, it's definitely the Conservatives.
Oh yeah, 100%.
There is a lot that we do, actually. As a matter of fact, we spend hours and days and weeks, replying to RFPs and replying to creating bid responses that cost thousands and thousands of dollars that some we win and some we lose. So, I mean, there's so much, background activity that goes on in the contracting world. It's not just a matter of, doing A and B and getting C, collecting money for C. It's not that simple. There's a lot of background activity that happens.
This is so fascinating. There's a lot of room to save money.
Gentlemen, I'm sorry, that is our time.
Okay, so that's another long one, everybody. But again, we we really feel that it's important that you see most of this. We didn't show a couple of the Liberals because, frankly, there was no value in it.
Just like these contracts.
Just like these contracts. But, you know, I expected these guys to be kind of shady. I didn't expect it to go this badly, frankly.
I'm wondering how long it's going to take until they like pack up their millions of stolen taxpayer dollars and like get out of the country and go someplace that does not extradite to Canada.
Well, and the crazy thing is they're only a couple kilometers away from Parliament Hill. That's the amazing thing in all of this. So,
well, I mean, there's crooks on Parliament Hill, so I'm not too surprised.
That's true. But, wow, folks, we learned a lot more today, and we confirmed a lot. And I will say, unfortunately, because whenever you confirm corruption, it just makes you even angrier. But the good news is we have the truth finders and the fact finders on this committee. Larry Brock was running support, as you could see, and helping the other MPs get their questions in order and identify things to ask. And, you know, it's a team effort. It's a big team effort there. So I do want to give massive, massive respect to Garnet Genius on this one. This is the most aggressive I've seen him, I think.
Yeah.
So, you know, very, very good job by Garnet. Excellent by Barrett and Stephanie Kusi as well. Just really, really good work. And this isn't over, folks. This is far from over. So as we continue on this path, you can count on Northern Perspective to keep bringing you the insight and the inside footage of what's going on when it comes to the ArriveScam. And as I said, this has the potential to blow up and bring down this government. Fingers crossed, it will.